honored to open this event, which is a cooperation between the Minerva Institute for German History and the Minerva Center, the Minerva Humanities Center, and in particular in relation to the project Humanities in Conflict Zones, which deals with the search of new angels. But I am extremely delighted to have you here, Vivian, as our guest tonight, and to somehow continue many discussions. One just ended a few minutes ago when we were thinking about how this book and how this thought really translate into not only afterlife, but really rethinking present, rethinking conflicts, rethinking our presence. I would like to say to you that there is something that you're going to get during this evening, which is this booklet. This booklet, which is red. I don't know why.
You know where?
It was where a beautiful article of Vivian Liska was beautifully translated by Daphna Shitrit, and it's here zur Verfügung. So it's for you to grab. And there are not so many copies, so anyway, they're standing there. To the topic of the evening, I'll start with a short text by Kafka, a central figure in Vivian's work and in this book as well. They were given the choice to become kings or messengers. Just like children, they all chose to be messengers. For this reason, they're only messengers. They race around the world, and because there are no kings, they call out to one another proclamations that have become meaningless. They would happily put an end to their miserable life, but because of their oath of office, they don't dare. This short text does many things. It takes us, I think, directly to the kind of themes that are dealt in this book. They show the relation between questions of tradition, of politics, of the dare of office, the social structure, the pressures of modernity, and maybe the loss of certainty. This loss of certainty is something that, in relation to traditions and to all these other aspects, are dealt by different thinkers that are under this framework of German Jewish thought, are discussed, analyzed, and Vivian shows us how they deal with these conflict, with these impasses, with these what seems to be impossibilities, and try to find different openings or different options within these loops, like we just heard from Kafka. But Vivian does another thing in her book, because what she says, and that's I think why this book is so important and so critical, because she says there is one set of thinkers, and Kafka, Celan, Arendt, Benjamin, and then there's a later, cutting edge, radical readers who misunderstand this moment. And what they seems to show in her reading, people that are part of our reading materials here, Agamben, Badiou, Slavoj Žižek, Judith Butler, they seems to all correspond to some kind of a dichotomy between a kind of omnipotentia absoluta and complete powerlessness. This dichotomy could be in Agamben, which is discussed in the book, like the Nazi concentration camp and the Muslim. It can be talked in relation to a kind of exilic, nomadic, flaneur existence or I'm talking about the powerlessness here, a kind of Bartleby response, I'd rather not. And Vivian says that's not good enough. She doesn't say why it's not good enough politically. She says why it's not good enough in capturing and understanding and analyzing the moment of these thinkers. You will hear more about it tonight, this evening. But what she does another step, which usually gets lost even in the critique of these thinkers, and explores or exposes a kind of theologische Unbewusst, a kind of theological unconscious, which is the figure of St. Paul. And in a sense, she's telling us, every time you're saying a Bartleby sentence, I'd rather not, you're buying into a Paulinic structure. You're buying like be the defeatist or be kind of these modes of resistance. Now, this is a very, very crucial point, not only because it's a very interesting discussion, but also because behind it lies the gesture of opening. And one of the stories that she analyzes is how Agamben is reading Kafka's Before the Law. And while Agamben insists in closing the door, she says Kafka leaves something open. So the entire attempt here is to read these closed door, the attempt for closing, and look for options of reopening. Does it work? Can it produce an alternative? These are questions that are now going to be, could be now discussed in the book, and we will discuss some of them tonight. I am glad to invite the director of the Minerva Institute for German History, Professor Galili Shachar, to walk us through this labyrinth. Galili, please. Thank you.